Good morning. I guarantee we can do better than that response. Good morning. For those of you I've yet to meet, I'm Rick Kidder, President and CEO of the South Coast Chamber, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you and to thank you for attending the 2018 State of the City Address. At this time, we're going to begin serving lunch shortly. I want to ask that out of respect for our speakers and the rest of the people in the room that you set your cell phones on stun. We are reaching capacity, so that if there are seats available at your table, raise a hand. As more people come in, we will sort people out. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure on behalf of the Chamber, our Board of Directors, and our partners to welcome you to the 2018 State of the City Address. At this time, I would ask that you please rise for the posting of the colors and the singing of our national anthem. Post the colors.
Thank you, sir. Order, arms. Center, face. Ready, post.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order, arms. Center, face. Order, arms.
Please be seated. Thank you. Today's color guard and the students assisting in uniform are members of the New Bedford High School JROTC program. New Bedford's JROTC program is the oldest continuous running program in the country, dating back to 1881. Their mission is to help young people become better citizens. The program's main goal is to assist the cadets in graduating from high school. It is wonderful to see so many people in attendance today, and we appreciate your taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. I know that everyone is eager to hear from Mayor Mitchell, but first I would like to take a brief moment to recognize those companies that have made this event possible. First, to our corporate sponsor, Webster Bank. Their continuous support of chamber events demonstrates their dedication and commitment to the New Bedford community. Thank you, Webster Bank. We value all of your hard work. At this time, I would like to invite Senior Vice President of Webster Bank, Carlos Acuna, to the podium to say a few words. Carlos? Whoa. And he landed. No problem. And he stuck the landing.
Thank you, Rick. Sorry about the bump if it was on me. So, welcome everyone to the 2018 State of the City Address. Also, Rick, congratulations to you and the Chamber for bringing this most important city event to my alma mater, New Bedford High School. I will spare everyone from how long ago it was that I graduated from this high school of excellence. But out of curiosity, how many people are here today who are graduates of New Bedford High? There you go. Fantastic. Thank you. I think that speaks volumes to the excellence that is the school. We at Webster are delighted for the opportunity to be with you again today in our 8th consecutive year as a partner in this signature chamber and annual city event. Enthusiastic to hear more about the strong progress being made toward our collective goal of a strong community for everyone, and the important initiatives planned for our great city into the future. Joining me from Webster's regional team here today are Don Tropoli, who leads our business banking efforts throughout the entire region, Gary Mukhtarian, who manages our home loans team of 5 mortgage banking professionals in Bristol County that generated in excess of 200 funded loans last year. And also Knud Hellstead, who provides, from our government banking team, who provide our city, New Bedford, with the sophisticated tools and advice to efficiently deliver their services. And speaking of our city, we're also very happy to have with us today Treasurer Renee Fernandez-Abbott, Assistant Treasurer Mark Fuller, and the Director of Tourism and Marketing, Dagny Ashley. Thank you all for joining us today. Webster has been a part of the New Bedford community since 2004, and a trusted, dependable, and reliable resource of ideas and solutions to help individuals, businesses, and government realize their strategic goals. Whether it is providing the leveraged capital to help our critical manufacturing, services, distribution, and seafood industries grow and create valued jobs, assist the exporting of products to foreign markets, support the development and construction of greener energy projects, work closely with individuals to build or purchase homes or help them plan for college or retirement, provide specialized expertise, as I indicated earlier, to municipal government, or deploying our resources in support of so many organizations with their important contributions to our community. Our empowered team of local professionals delivers Webster's wide-ranging resources throughout our city and region every day. At its core, Webster, with over $26 billion in assets and over $5 billion in market value, is strong enough to matter. But yet, we're also small enough to care about delivering on our customers' expectations and helping our community succeed. So I encourage you to talk to us because we will listen to what matters most to you and together find solutions that deliver on the results you desire. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rick. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Has any one of you ever backed off a stage before? Let me tell you, I do not recommend it. Thank you, Carlos, very, very much. There are also a number of supporting sponsors that we would like to thank and recognize. Acorn Development, Construction and Management, Bay Coast Bank, the Sylvia Group, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, Bristol County Savings Bank, Bay State Wind, Greater New Bedford Regional Vocational and Technical High School, and the Port of New Bedford Harbor Development Commission. Let's give them a hand. Without our sponsors, major events like the State of the City address could not be possible. We're grateful for their relentless devotion to enhancing the community's quality of life while encouraging the economic development of the region. Thank you again. At this time, continue to enjoy your lunch as the ceremony will commence shortly. It is my pleasure now to introduce Joseph Michaud, Attorney at Law, the Office of Joseph L. Michaud, and Chair of the Chamber's Board of Directors, who will act as our Master of Ceremonies for this afternoon's program. Please welcome Joe Michaud.
I'm just going to guide Rick off the stage. We don't want that. There's always a little drama in these things, isn't there? And I'm very pleased I can read the mayor's speech ahead if you'd like. You want me to get started, John? I've never had these things in here, but very interesting. I thought they were for my protection, but evidently not. Thank you, everyone. Pleased to have everyone come out for our annual State of the City address. The mayor always shares some great information with us about what his agenda is going to be, reviewing some of the accomplishments of the past year and some of his goals and objectives for the upcoming year. So we're all anxious to hear that. And it's really a pleasure to see so many people in attendance here today at New Bedford High School. So at this time, I would ask that you please join me in welcoming the New Bedford High Jazz Choir, and they are going to join us and perform another song. And I believe that they're seated here and here, correct? Oh, here they are. Okay.
In a hurry. Relax, there's no need to worry. No use for second guessing. Die out of bounds. Got notes that need expressing. Tell me, oh, caution through the window. That's the only thing you gotta do to let it all begin now. I can never get enough.
I used to sit around feeling like a lump.
Through the window.
Nothing in the world ever made me jump. Then I got the bug, you should see me now. But to any more than the law allows. Say it, shout it, sounds so nice.
Nobody
So
out
much
in
better.
As of yesterday, my blues are gone forever. Singing in the shower, it sounds so nice. Somebody out in the lights. Gotta do my section, how your day, come on. Sing, 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 sing.
All you got to do is sing.
Girls and boys make a noise. Just try singing with a swing. Sing, 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 sing.
Everybody likes to sing.
Summer, fall, and winter, spring.
These are all the best times to sing.
When the music comes around, just join in with your own sound.
Here's the thing you need to know. Just make it all up as you go. Sing, 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 sing. All you got to do is sing.
Shakespeare said the song's a thing when you sing it with a swing. Stop all your tiptoeing, and once you get going, there'll be no stopping. The melody's filling your heart and soul. 1, 2, 3, we're swinging as you sing with no apology. So
You might as well sing it. It's a kick in the pants.
now you're singing with a swing.
Now you're singing with a swing.
Sing, sing, sing. Yeah.
Wow. That was really good. Outstanding, ladies. New Bedford High Jazz Choir, folks. It's an after-school choral group that's under the direction of Eric Thompson. The 8 members of the jazz choir are also participants in other performing arts groups here at the school, including concert band, drama club, jazz band, concert chorale, and the SATB show choir. So that is, what an outstanding job. One more round of applause for them. Thanks again. I've heard enough. I'm ready to go, right? No? Oh, okay. We'll go on then. We also have numerous elected officials that have joined us today, taking time out of their busy schedules to come here and listen to the mayor's State of the City address. So if they could please give a wave as I announce your name. Representing our state legislative delegation, we have Representative Christopher Markey, Representative Tony Cabral, Representative Bob Casera, and Representative Paul Schmidt. From the District Attorney's Office, we have District Attorney Thomas Quinn III. Also want to recognize an old friend, former Mayor Rosemary Tierney is here with us today. Good to see her out and about. From the New Bedford City Council, we have Council President Linda Morad, Councilor Joe Lopes, Councilor Deb Coelho, Councilor Hugh Dunn, Councilor Maria Giesta, Councilor Naomi Carney, Councilor Brad Markey, Councilor Dana Ribeiro, Councilor Scott Lima, Councilor Brian Gomes, and Councilor Ian Avery. Thanks for coming. From the New Bedford School Committee today, we have Joshua Amaral, Bruce Oliveira, and Jack Livramento joined us today. Thanks for coming. New Bedford City Assessor's Office is represented today by Kim Saunders and Marty Tretta joined us. And we'd also like to acknowledge Congressman Keating's office for sending a representative for today's event. So thank you very much for him showing as well. And I apologize if I missed everybody. We try to check the names of people as they're coming in, but sometimes we may not get everybody. So if we did miss you, it's not anything Blame me. Don't blame the staff. A major event like this, as you all know too, requires a great deal of support from many professionals to make it successful. So I'd like to recognize a few of them for their involvement today. Thank you to Dave LeBeau for the Lightworks production for providing the sound today. Dave. Greater New Bedford Voc culinary staff and students have joined us for assisting with the amazing catering and the service that you've all had this afternoon. Outstanding job. Thanks, Jim. Reynolds DeWalt Printing for printing all of the invitations to today's event as well. The New Bedford High School students and staff for hosting us today in this wonderful place. They've done an outstanding job. Really made it look very nice. Porter New Bedford Harbor Development Commission for providing the parking shuttles today. Our good friends at Century House for providing today's delicious meal. I think it went pretty well. Chase Canopy for the tables, chairs, and other decorations that were provided today. Great job with that. Mayor's Office for their assistance in organizing today's program. Our friend Sergio from Bad Monkey Pics over here, taking our photography today. On all of our media partners for their participation in covering the event. WBSM, local cable, thank you again for providing this information, and also our friends at the Standard Times who do a wonderful job in covering this event every year. Okay. Which gets us right up to the point where we need to be with introduction of Mayor Mitchell. And so I'm looking over to WBSM. How are we looking, guys? About ready to cue? We're good? Okay, great. If I could ask Carlos Tacuna of Webster Bank back up to the podium. Carlos, if you do give us the pleasure of introducing the mayor today.
I won't bump you off the stage.
No, don't bump me.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Mayor, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I am honored that the Chamber has asked us to participate again in the annual State of the City Address Luncheon. Webster Bank is privileged to be a part of this vibrant community and to have a strong working relationship with our city of New Bedford. But before I start with the introduction, Mr. Mayor, I understand that you have a personal day coming up this weekend, and so we wish you the best with that, and because right after that, you do understand that you are on a countdown clock to a full membership into AARP. You do understand that, right? So good luck with that. Have a terrific day. Since taking office in 2012, John Mitchell has pursued an ambitious, wide-ranging agenda to promote job growth, reform our public schools, modernize our port, and solidify the downtown status as a cultural and economic center of the entire region. The mayor has accomplished a great deal over the past 6 years, and the pace of change he has brought to the city has only accelerated over the past year. Consider this. New Bedford's unemployment rate is now half what it was when the mayor took office in 2012. Construction of a second downtown hotel will be completed in just a few months. We are just weeks away from the state awarding the first of several multi-billion-dollar offshore wind energy projects to be staged from our own New Bedford Harbor. And in his role as chairman of the Energy Policy Committee for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Mayor Mitchell is making sure New Bedford's voice is heard in Washington, not just on green energy, but on key infrastructure projects that are critical to our city's future growth. Closer to home, the second of two new elementary schools, the Irwin M. Jacobs School, opened this past fall in the South End. The city's comprehensive energy plan is saving city government, taxpayers, and homeowners millions of dollars in reduced utility bills. The mayor's introduction of modern management practices to City Hall has helped the city achieve the highest bond rating from Wall Street in its modern history. And the new Cove Walk, Harbor Walk, and River Walk projects, not to mention several new parks, and are all a demonstration of the mayor's commitment to improving the quality of life in every neighborhood. New Bedford is on the right track, and John's leadership is a big part of that story. On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, please join me in welcoming New Bedford Mayor John Mitchell to deliver the 2018 State of the City Address.
That's so sobering. Well, thank you, Carlos, and then thank you in particular for not singing happy birthday to me. I really appreciate the restraint. And thank you, Joe Michaud and the Chamber for another great job in organizing this annual event, and of course to Webster Bank for its enduring sponsorship. I want to thank also Headmaster Bernadette Coelho, who is probably somewhere in our midst working hard and putting such a great event together here at the high school, and for her hospitality. You can't help but as you look around to note that when many high schools put up banners, they put up banners for conference championships. Here at New Bedford High, they just do it for state championships, and that says a lot about the school and its commitment to excellence. In years past, I've begun my remarks by welcoming my wife, Ann, but unfortunately she cannot be with us today because she's traveling for work. So in her absence, I just want it to be known how much I appreciate her love for me and support for me in our city. But I'm also not without family today. It turns out that two of the students assembled in our midst are related to me, but I swore that I wouldn't draw attention to them while they were in the midst of their friends. Suffice it to say, their father is very proud that they are here today. I want to welcome all the students who are gathered here, and I plan on directing some of my comments specifically to you. I want you to enjoy the occasion, and I hope you learned something as well, because after all, you're getting to skip out on class. For those students who've not attended a State of the City address before, it is, as the name implies, an occasion to take stock of how things are going in the city. So let's take a moment to do just that. Thanks to the hard work of residents and city employees, there is tremendous progress to report. Not once, as Carlos was getting at, but twice in the last 5 years, New Bedford, Massachusetts, a city that has suffered from decades of chronically high unemployment, led the entire United States out of nearly 400 cities in the year-over-year drop in its unemployment rate. There are over 4,000 more people in the city working today than there were 5 years ago. Now, the growth has been across the board. For the first time in its 60-year history, our business park is full, with every lot either occupied by or under a purchase and sale agreement with a major business. The volume of building permits is the highest in memory. This year, we secured approval from the Federal Aviation Administration to run regional commercial air service at our airport. New Bedford, we have a real airport now. And the port is growing and diversifying its industries. New Bedford has become the center, the undisputed center, of the commercial fishing industry on the East Coast, with a 67% increase in out-of-state vessels landing here. There are more North Carolina scallopers now landing in New Bedford than in North Carolina, while cargo tonnage and recreational boating activity has expanded faster than at any point in a decade. And the port is about to become the launching pad of the American offshore wind industry. But the progress goes beyond business and job growth. In the last 3 years, New Bedford has seen double-digit drops in its crime rate. We've become a national leader in renewable energy and energy efficiency, with one of America's most robust municipal solar programs, all of our streetlights on LED technology, and more electric cars in our municipal fleet than any other community in Massachusetts. Our schools were removed from state monitoring, and the 4-year graduation rate is now the highest it's been since the state started tracking that figure. New Bedford. And as Carlos noted, New Bedford has the highest Wall Street bond rating in its history. That's municipal finance, can be boring stuff, but you know what? That is so important. I could go on. The list is longer. But my point is this. By these objective measures, there's no denying that the city has been enormously successful. And it's not just the data that proclaims the progress. We can see it with our own eyes. As residents and visitors consistently note, the city has become cleaner and neater, especially after we went to automated trash collection, became serious about street sweeping. Graffiti is rare, and you really have to go looking for it because we've been downright compulsive about removing it. We've planted thousands of street trees. We can now walk on the fabulous Harbor Walk and Cove Walk and can enjoy 5 new public parks. We've built new zoo exhibits for the first time in a long time, and the attendance at the zoo has soared. We've built new schools and renovated many others. We have a new $50 million marine science facility and new public safety centers on the waterfront and in the south end in the pipeline. Our schools and our city buildings are getting makeovers, especially City Hall, which has been painstakingly restored by Ken Blanchard and his team. I want to give Ken a particular shout out. When the weather gets warm, check out City Hall. It is fabulous. The downtown, of course, has come alive as the center of the restaurant scene in the region. It is something new. It is something for everybody. The next restaurant to open, by the way, will be a noodle bowl restaurant. So if you are into noodles, there's that for you. The persistent neglect of our roads is ending. Now, roads all over the city are now getting the investment they've long needed. In fact, in a meeting last week, Manny Silva, our hugely talented highway superintendent, said that in the coming months there will be more road work going on in the city than at any point in his 19 years here. Right, Manny? So there is no doubt about it. Things are happening in New Bedford. Now I hasten to add that I walk through all of this not to pat ourselves on the back. What we have accomplished together instead should be a source of confidence to accomplish more still. This is especially important given our city's struggles in the past, because New Bedford, like other older industrial cities, had experienced persistent decline over several decades. It was natural in some quarters to assume that decline was inevitable, and that if anything, it was up to the state or somebody else to turn things around for us. And what was worse, we allowed ourselves to believe that we deserved that help. New Bedford is on the right track now because we took the first important step to self-improvement. We, New Bedford, made the conscious decision to stop being a victim. We chose not to passively hope that someone else would bail us out. We took control of our own affairs. We decided to initiate the action. And what we accomplished together, what we have been able to accomplish thus far in these last few years, is just the start. A city is constantly being built, and that's what we're doing right now. We have the will and the confidence, but we also need to be pointed in the right direction. Our success will depend on our ability to think strategically about our future and to work together to follow that strategy. And as we ask ourselves, how can we continue our success, we have to take a look at what's happening in other cities across America. America today is enjoying a prolonged period of economic growth that is disproportionately concentrated in its largest cities. America's big cities are living in a golden age right now, fueled by major research universities, international airports, and corporate headquarters. They're home to virtually all of America's venture capital, new office construction, and foreign investment. Unemployment is negligible in these places. Real estate prices are skyrocketing, and the gap between the haves and the have-nots is just widening. These places are marked by forests of construction cranes, $50 a plate entrees, and very soon, driverless cars. Boston and New York are two of the closest examples, but there are many of them, and their seemingly unabated growth may have profound implications for the rest of America. And these days, talent tends to follow the flow of capital. The high school students who are here with you today are an accomplished group. If I ask them to raise their hands if they were interested, and when they're done with their education, to move to New York or Boston or some other big city, I suspect more than a few hands will go up. Don't raise your hands, keep your hands down. The answer is too painful, actually. But we shouldn't be surprised by the reaction. The talent drain from Greater New Bedford, from young people from Greater New Bedford is nothing new. And it's just that today the attraction of the big city is even stronger than it's ever been. So what does that mean for a mid-sized city like us that is not part of a major metropolitan area and doesn't have all the same cards to play? Well, one thing it means is that we still have to compete. After all, we operate in the same global economy as all the major cities, and at the same time, we shouldn't see ourselves as trying to be like them or beat them at their own game. We can be something different and indeed preferable. And in America, where the biggest cities are becoming more congested and expensive and in some cases more violent, a city like ours can offer a more manageable alternative. Here and in other mid-sized cities, one can have those things that people like in urban places, really nice public spaces, walkable streets, cultural amenities, interesting architecture, and so forth, but without feeling crushed and disconnected at the same time as so many people feel in big cities. We in New Bedford don't have what people hate about big cities: regular traffic jams, high levels of gun violence, and not knowing your neighbors. And here you can still get a good meal at a restaurant for under $10. My point is that a city doesn't have to be a major metropolis to be successful in offering its residents an opportunity for a good life. Portland, Maine, Charleston, South Carolina are noteworthy. They are great examples of port cities, one a little bit smaller than us, one a little bit bigger than us, that are succeeding. So how do we make it happen here in our city, in New Bedford? Well, first and foremost, we must continue to focus relentlessly on making New Bedford, quite simply, a really nice place to live in. This might sound like I'm just stating the obvious. Of course, everyone wants to have safe neighborhoods, more pleasant parks, cleaner streets, high-performing schools. Local government, after all, is set up to facilitate such things. But the point I'm making is that enhancing the city's quality of life shouldn't be seen simply as an end in itself, but as a means to sustaining the city in the long run. We will attract more business and excite greater civic participation the more people believe that this is a place they'd like to live in. A high quality of life is a great selling point for any city. So we've been proud of how we've been able to elevate the city's quality of life these last few years, but there's an awful lot more to do. So let's talk about those key areas. Successful cities protect the well-being of their residents, and we've made great strides on that front. Despite a spike in homicides last year that didn't fit any particular pattern, the crime rate in New Bedford is down significantly over the last few years. The reality is that the crime rate in New Bedford compares very favorably with that of other cities nationwide and in the Northeast and in Massachusetts. And that's a tribute to our officers and the leadership of our police chief, Joe Cadero. And I really want to give Joe a strong shout out for that. But not every neighborhood is as safe as it should be, and that's the challenge before us. We are going to make every neighborhood in this city safe. So we are concentrating our attention in those areas like never before. Chief Cadero has installed new energetic leadership in the North End and South End stations that have intensified community policing efforts in the handful of areas that we need to get a better handle on. They're making their presence felt, and they're already making a difference, that we're hearing it from the neighbors. And we're putting cameras in all those areas, lots of cameras, so that we have a better chance of catching the criminals in the act and deterring further crime. I appreciate the City Council's support for financing these useful tools for our police. There will be more demands to come, but the City Council has been unwavering in their support, and I really appreciate that, so thank you very much. In the next year, the police department also will become far more sophisticated in its ability to analyze crime trends. With my support, the chief will hire the department's first crime analyst and upgrade its crime mapping software so that it can be far better at predicting where crime may occur. That way, our officers can be in the right place at the right time more often. But our modernization of the police department doesn't end there. In the next several weeks, we will have the results of a year-long review of the department. It's been more than 20 years since the last review, and the last one was done in response to a lawsuit. This time, we're doing it for a different reason. We're undertaking a thorough and candid self-assessment because we want our department to go from good to great. And that will make a big difference in the everyday safety of the lives of the residents of our city. I expect many useful recommendations will come out of that report, but one of them probably will be that we should continue to target recidivism. Most criminologists would tell you that in any city, even a big one, a disproportionate amount of crime is committed by a tiny fraction of the population. It's true here in New Bedford. With that in mind, we will continue to work closely with DA Tom Quinn to devote granular attention to repeat offenders and to urge the judges in the district court to hold them accountable. We will continue to, I know everybody in the DA's office is clapping at that one if they can hear me now. We will continue to address the roots of criminal activity as well. Chief among those efforts will be to increase the pressure on unscrupulous landlords. And you've heard this stuff from me before. But despite much improvement in this area, much improvement, we still have landlords who are all too willing to allow criminals onto their properties. I have proposed to the City Council a measure that will lower the threshold for a property to be designated a so-called problem property that will allow us to shift the costs of police responses onto the property owner himself or herself, and that's exactly where it should be until those landlords actually get on the dime and actually manage their properties much more closely. If they don't know by now, these landlords will eventually get the point. We will not permit them to neglect their properties and the interests of their neighbors. All of our public safety departments have been in the thick of what I believe is the most vexing public health challenge of our day, opiate addiction. Any discussion of the well-being of any city these days, including ours, has to begin there. The problem is not unique to New Bedford, but it has ended or ruined too many lives here. Our EMS and fire departments do a terrific job. Chief Gomes and Mark McGraw do fabulous work in both departments, and in fact, their departments stand out among the very best in the state, but they, like the police, are consumed with this problem. And look, it's nothing new. In fact, they will remain unwavering in their efforts to get after this problem, because every one of those addicts is someone's son, daughter, father or mother or brother or sister, and not a single one of them ever thought they'd be in the position they're in. This is a complex and multifaceted problem that affects the people of every walk of life. So the only way we are going to turn the tide is through sustained collective effort. Our opioid prevention task force has made great strides, and I can report that in 2017, overdoses in the city dropped some 19% over the previous year, and that's really encouraging. But there's a long way to go. I want to thank all of our first responders, public health personnel, and everyone involved in this battle now and in the days ahead. To be successful, a city must create pathways for its citizens to reach their full potential. More than anything else, that means we must offer our city's children a public school education that enables them to thrive as adults. Our schools have come a long way these past few years because we refused to sit idly by while our kids were losing out on the education they deserved. We now have a school system that is clear in its academic goals, manages taxpayer dollars reliably, and has raised the standards for academic instruction. We have improved immensely the teaching of non-English speakers and upgraded technology and revamped the entire curriculum and have done so much more. The work has produced real results. Most notably, the state has ended its monitoring of the district, noting that it is a completely different district than it was in 2011 when the state's monitoring started. There has been a steady rise in test scores across a majority of schools and a marked rise, again, in the four-year graduation rate. New Bedford High School, in particular, under the leadership of Headmaster Coelho and the hard work of the teachers in this building, have accomplished so much. The place has been reaccredited and has seen unmistakable improvement in instruction, millions of dollars in investments in the physical plant, especially in technology, and new programs like the AP Capstone that will enable high-achieving students like the ones right around us to be more competitive in college admissions. But make no mistake, here too, the work is not done. Among other steps, the quality of instruction must continue to improve, and support for ELL and other high-need students must be beefed up. We also need to address the glaring challenge of retaining students in the district, as more and more families have chosen to send their children to other schools in the last few years. It would be simplistic to chalk up this problem entirely to helicopter parenting. The district has to do far more in the areas that make schools attractive by investing more still in facilities and managing them well, strengthening extracurricular offerings so that they again become a motivation for students to go to school, in creating an orderly but engaging culture that every student and parent wants to be part of. As the school committee goes about selecting the next superintendent, let me be really clear about one thing. There will be no relaxing of our effort to improve our schools. We are looking for a superintendent who can lead the district most effectively toward its goals, namely to offer a high-quality education to every child and to attract families to the school district. Taking the school district to the proverbial next level will require energy and persistence. It will require the building and rebuilding of relationships that are necessary to support and nurture a strong school culture. It will require the ability to connect and establish trust. For our kids and our city, we will build a school system where kids are eager to go to school in the morning, parents are proud to send them there, and teachers and principals derive personal satisfaction from the hard and important work they do. We will also continue to invest in those qualities of place that make living in New Bedford pleasant, interesting, and rewarding. We will continue to invest wisely in our public spaces and maintain the standards of excellence in the delivery of municipal services. New Bedford residents deserve nothing less. To exalt New Bedford's glorious past, we will invest in historic preservation more than ever before. And it's happening now with the Community Preservation Committee poised to make its first round of funding for preservation projects that will go into the millions of dollars. To beautify our streets, clean our air, and slow down traffic, we will continue the city's most ambitious tree planting program in our lifetimes. We will make the most of our access to water by working to connect the downtown to the waterfront and begin constructing the Riverwalk with the goal of wrapping the Blue Lane around the entire city. It's going to be fantastic and something we can all be proud of. As the city's built environment is shaped, we need robust citizen input. It's your city. You get to say how it should look. You, of course, can do that in public hearings concerning particular projects, and we certainly encourage people to come out for that. You can use the C-Click Fix app on your smartphone, and folks in DPI will tell you that I use it incessantly to call in potholes and other things on my mind. But there are other ways that you can connect, and being able to connect constructively with city government is an important element of a city's quality of life. And that's why I've held monthly office hours at neighborhood libraries where people can come to talk to me about whatever's on their mind. Now, I have to say that of late, attendance at these sessions has been, shall we say, a tad underwhelming. And maybe it's the weather, I'm not sure why that is, but I really want to hear from people. And so I'm going to try something new. My plan is to draw people in the old-fashioned way, with food. In the months ahead, I'll hold office hours at various restaurants around the city, where, yes, there will be food available on my personal tab. I'm saying it with 500 witnesses in the room. And don't get any ideas, I'm not buying drinks. As many of you know, free food is an enticement that would work well on me personally, and if it heightens civic engagement just a little bit, it'll have been entirely worth it. So the message to all of you is join me for a bite to eat and tell me what's on your mind, please. I also want to talk about another favorite subject of everyone, and that's this: money. All of our efforts to improve our city will depend on our ability to manage our finances. And our heightened bond rating reflects that we've been very effective at it, but it hasn't been easy. I mean, you've heard me say it before that the reality is that money is tight. It's very tight in the city, and we might all agree on the financial priorities, namely to sustain and improve the level of services our residents expect, invest in the city's physical plant, attract talent to city government by offering competitive salaries, fully funding our schools, and easing the burden on taxpayers. Under our current fiscal conditions, however, not all of these things can be achieved, and none of them can be achieved as well as we'd like. We have made significant cuts to city government, and city government is considerably smaller and more efficient than it was 10 years ago, yet the pressure on taxpayers, especially small businesses, has only increased. And I don't need to remind an audience, this audience in particular, that high commercial tax rates do not exactly strengthen a city's competitiveness. And this is during a time of relative growth. What will happen when the national economy turns downward, as it inevitably will at some time, and state and local tax receipts start to fall? We've experienced that before. We need to be really careful not to allow ourselves to get squeezed financially. And we can't wait for a crisis to start making hard decisions. I want to make very clear to everybody here, really clear, that I will not allow our city to be put in a precarious financial position. It's happening in other cities, not too far away from here, but it's not going to happen here. The tough part is that there aren't painless options. We will continue to reorganize city government to increase efficiency, as we've done with considerable success. We will make every effort to expand the tax base by encouraging the development of underutilized public property, and that's why the municipal golf course redevelopment project is very important. But unfortunately, these steps alone won't do the trick. Spending has to be reined in. The budget busters, as you know, are pension, healthcare, and charter school costs. And you've heard me criticize the state for making it difficult for municipalities to control these costs because the expenses are largely dictated by state policy. The state can fairly be said to have tied our hands. I look forward to working with the City Council and the state on these matters, and I appreciate the thoughtful discussions that we've had along the way, but it is a discussion that we have to continually have as a city. A high quality of life is not possible if we are not otherwise economically competitive. It bears emphasizing that we are competing in a global economy for investment and jobs, and if we don't compete effectively, they'll all go elsewhere, as our city has come to realize the hard way over the years. Growing our regional economy and the jobs that come with it requires us to focus on our competitive advantages. That is to say, we need to double down on the things that we're already really good at. In New Bedford, more than anything else, that means our maritime economy. The port is the primary economic driver of the region because it offers those competitive advantages to the various industries that call the port home: commercial fishing, recreational boating, ferry service, certain lines of international cargo, and soon enough, offshore wind. The port generates a full 2% of the state's gross domestic product and supports nearly 7,000 jobs. And as reflected in the port's strategic plan that we released just yesterday, there is potential for significant growth in the years ahead. In light of the growth and increased complexity of the port in New Bedford, yesterday we also announced that the New Bedford Harbor Development Commission, the city's port management agency under the highly effective leadership of Ed Washburn, right there, Ed, the Harbor Development Commission voted to change its name to the New Bedford Port Authority. The new name signals the leadership role New Bedford must continue to play on the East Coast, especially in fishing and offshore wind. When it comes to fishing, we will continue to assert ourselves. This past year, I testified twice before Congress on fisheries-related issues and had countless conversations with federal fishing regulators about the closure of Sector 9 and a whole host of other matters. In the last 2 presidential administrations, we've been in the thick of discussions about the dedication of marine monuments. They come to us. 2 years ago, we led the way in establishing the National Coalition of Fishing Communities, whose mission is to be a voice for America's fishing ports. And when it comes to the discussion around commercial fishing, New Bedford is at the table right where it should be and where it has to stay. We've also worked hard to position the port as a home for the offshore wind industry in the years ahead. Just a few years ago, there was no shortage of critics who claimed that we were putting our eggs in one basket, too many eggs in one basket, by spending so much time on offshore wind, and many thought it would never materialize. Well, it is happening, and it's happening not too long from now, and in no small part because of the political support for offshore wind that we have been able to build over the last 3 years with the help of the state legislators who are here today and so many others. All of these things, in the last few months, the state's 3 major offshore wind developers, all of whom have offices in the city and some of whom have tables in this room, made public bids to invest billions of dollars on wind farms off of our coast, staged right from our waterfront. We will continue to gear up for the industry's arrival on many fronts, and we're working very closely with him. And I want to thank in particular, and she couldn't be here today, Laura Douglas, the president of BCC, for the hard work that they're doing, BCC is doing to gear up for training the workforce that will come, that industry will need in the years ahead. As encouraging as these developments are, we need to continue playing our cards right. We are entering a key phase in the long cultivation of the offshore wind industry here. And we will assist the industry however we can to settle into the port and into the city as seamlessly as possible. We want them to succeed, and we want them to be here for a long time. And their arrival here is downright historic for this city. It'll be incumbent upon us to anticipate the industry's needs and, among other efforts, to pursue wise investments in port infrastructure to support it. At the same time, it will be important to do everything possible to ensure that the commercial fishing industry and the offshore wind industry coexist successfully in our port. Fishermen have raised legitimate concerns about safe navigation and other issues. I believe that these concerns can and must be addressed effectively so that both industries can prosper alongside one another right in our port. But it will require the offshore wind industry to be committed to an open and candid dialogue about their plans. Fishermen understand that offshore wind farms are coming, but it is also fair for them to expect that wind farms be developed the right way. And the right way here may not be the same way they were developed in Northern Europe, where the fishing industry isn't nearly as large or as complex as it is here. Federal regulations require that offshore wind developers engage in a dialogue with the fishing community. And New Bedford will be at the epicenter of where these 2 industries interact in the United States. There is no entity better situated than, to promote this dialogue between the 2 industries than the New Bedford Port Authority. As the management agency for America's largest fishing port, which happens also to have a very strong record in promoting offshore wind, no one has more relevant knowledge about and credibility with both industries than the Port Authority. So today, I call upon the offshore wind developers to embrace this opportunity to work with the Port Authority to facilitate this dialogue. It will be critical to have a process in place that allows for all of the issues to be worked out. Getting it right now is critical. Let's work out those issues so that everyone who goes to sea from New Bedford can do so safely and successfully. If both of these industries expand in New Bedford, by the way, not only will we see more direct jobs, but there will be more opportunities for related innovation and entrepreneurship. This is an area to which we are devoting considerably more energy and attention. With appropriate support, marine science industries, including those associated with the expanded SMAS facility, will enable our city to attract and retain talent and further diversify our economy. And the work to grow the economy is hardly limited to the waterfront. Have you heard me say before, every successful city has a vibrant downtown. There is no exception anywhere. And now that is becoming true here in New Bedford. The downtown itself and its cultural centers like the Whaling Museum and the Zeiterion are enormously important economic assets, and they're doing very, very well these days. We will continue to cultivate residential development in our downtown so that these institutions can be supported appropriately and allow for more restaurants and retail to grow in our downtown and to bring more people in. It has played out that way in a number of places. It can play out here as well. And the downtown and the rest of the city will benefit from the work being done on the city's first cultural plan. Having established the state's only municipal arts fund, we will soon have a cultural plan that will enable the city's arts scene to come alive like never before, and that's really exciting. And like any other city, our downtown must have strong anchor institutions. We will support our existing anchor institutions and seize every opportunity to develop or recruit new ones, whether they are government, higher education, or corporate institutions. In the years ahead, New Bedford's economy can and should benefit from improved transportation connections with other cities. Every elected official in southeastern Massachusetts over the past 20 years has advocated for the South Coast Rail Project, as has the Chamber of Commerce and so many other bodies here. And now that it appears that the alternate approach through Middleborough is gaining traction. But by and large, this is a positive development. While we in Greater New Bedford have come to appreciate that the project will not represent the economic salvation of the region as it has long been portrayed to be, the connection would offer one more good reason to live and invest here. Another important set of connections will come through our airport. Now that we can offer commercial air service, there is the potential in the years ahead for any one of us to conveniently fly out of New Bedford into the nation's airways and go wherever we want. And it is indeed starting to happen, and that's really exciting. If we are able to make the most of this opportunity, we have to recognize that we are running a very different airport these days, and we have to plan well. So I am announcing today that I have asked former Precise CEO David Slutz to head up a review panel to advise the city and the Airport Commission on how our airport can reach its full potential. The panel will be comprised of a number of business leaders, some of whom are in this room, who will work directly with a consultant to establish a long-term strategic plan which will shape the airport's operations in the years ahead. It's a major undertaking, but given the potential of our airport, it's high time that we take it on. We in city government will continue to work hard to help make New Bedford a stronger, more vibrant, and sustainable city. I'm eager to work with the City Council to advance the city's long-term interests, and I know that they feel the same. I emphasize that in building a city, municipal government has a role to play. Government cannot do it all, and maybe not even most of it. City Hall should not be seen as the default source of the solution to every problem, however minor. It will take the collective effort of our community to make New Bedford a city that lives up to our collective aspirations. Something is expected of each one of us. The notion of citizenship is rooted in the idea that we have obligations to others. It requires more than simply expressing an opinion about what someone else should do. Being a responsible citizen requires actual action in service of collective challenges, even when it's not perfectly convenient, even when it's not easy, even when you think someone else should be doing the work. It recognizes the difference between posting a picture of a littered sidewalk on Facebook and lamenting the mess, and instead picking up the trash and throwing it away. What's expected may vary from person to person, but everyone has something to offer. If you are a business leader, and we have many of you in the room here today, chances are that you have more to offer than most. Successful cities are invariably ones where business leaders own the challenge of urban renewal and work collaboratively with government toward that end. They recognize that the long-term prosperity of the city is in their personal interest and that of their organizations. They have not only the expertise and leadership skills to offer, but the resources and prestige of their organizations as well. Now, I'm not talking about charity. I want to be really clear, although that's clearly welcomed. I mean rather that if you profess a devotion to the city, there are ways to act on your devotion without unduly compromising your bottom line. And there are great examples all over the place. They are not hard to find of that kind of leadership. There are business leaders like Lynn Mastera, the CFO of Precise, who books all of her company's business visitors at New Bedford hotels unless they're full. And with a new hotel opening up soon in the downtown, there'll be more opportunities for this, and that's easy. There are those like Henry Weiner, who decided to expand his business quite substantially in the middle of the city, instead of in nearby communities where it might have been a little less expensive. It's someone like Tony Sapienza, who spends countless hours pulling together business leadership through the Regeneration Committee to support and promote and propel the city's strategic priorities. And it was you, many of you in this room, including the leadership of the Chamber, who spent time campaigning last year for the 4-year mayoral term because you recognized that it was in the long-term interest of the city and the entire region. Now give yourselves a round of applause for that, because you deserve it. And then there are the two people who went the extra mile, about which I cannot say enough. Victor and Christine Fernandez recognized that the city should have a playground for children with severe disabilities, just like their son Noah. They knew as well as anybody that every child should have an opportunity to play outside with their peers. When we started talking about the idea, it was clear that there were various sites across southeastern Massachusetts where it could go. But Victor said to me, we really want it to be in the city. So we found a beautiful spot on Pope's Island in full view of the harbor, and we had a groundbreaking ceremony there with Noah as the star of the show. Then Victor and Christine and the mass movement known as Team Noah got down to work. They raised $1.3 million like that, and they rallied numerous businesses to promote it, to give in-kind donations, and Victor's own company, Fernandez Masonry, devoted countless hours to the construction of the playground this past fall. Unfortunately, Noah passed away before the opening of the playground that now bears his name. But what his parents and their team built for him and unknown numbers of children who struggle with severe disabilities is a testament to their devotion to those children and the city. It is the finest playground of its kind in the Northeast, if not beyond. It really is. And it will put smiles on the faces of children and families for years to come. I ask that you join me in thanking Victor and Christine for what they have done for these kids, their families, and for our city. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Everybody has something to contribute to New Bedford. You don't need to move proverbial mountains like Victor and Christine, but cities are built by people who recognize a collective need, take it upon themselves to address it, and rally others to the cause. My point is that if you've been sitting on the sidelines, I want you to know that your city, our city, needs you. You will find that it is well worth the effort. A city is more than a place on a map. The city shapes and frames our relationships with one another and is woven into our individual identity. It's part of who we are, past, present, and future. And when you devote your talent and your energy to make your city a better place, you've committed to improving yourself. I look forward to the work ahead with each and every one of you. Thank you, and God bless our great city.
Outstanding, Mr. Mayor. I've been to a few of those, and I think that's got to be one of the finest ones that I've had the pleasure to sit and listen to. So thank you very much. That concludes our program for this afternoon. Again, like to thank all of our sponsors, all of our elected officials for taking the time to attend, the mayor and his staff for assisting the chamber in putting this event on. So thank you all very much for coming, and hopefully you can get back and to your businesses early enough to make some dough, right? Thank you.